plateau, 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 plateau. That's fun to say, it's a fun word to say. Plateau, 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 plateau. I mean, at this point, I don't even know if it's a word anymore. Do you ever get that? Where plateau, is it a word? If it is a word, this is what it means. Plateaus are a natural part of a training cycle. It's when your body adapts to the training that you subject it to and you stop improving. You could call it a rut, staleness, or a glass ceiling, and it can be caused by so many things. But the good news is that with a few tweaks to what you're doing, you can smash through that glass ceiling in no time. And before we go through some tried and tested training tips, I'm going to tell you the biggest mistake I see newer runners make to try and take themselves to the next level. When you stop getting better or faster or stronger, you try to do more. Throw more at it, and that can lead to more long-term problems. Like overtraining, when all you really needed was the key. A smart, small way to reap the biggest rewards.
Let's start this bit with the phrase, what got you there won't get you here, because I think it's really, really relevant for training and progression. And what I mean by that is, you could do the same things day in, day out. And I know I always preach consistency, but if you do that long term, things aren't going to change, and here's why. And this is how I interpret it, kind of explain it to myself, is that the brain is this unbelievable computer, like machine, organ. It's really mind-blowing what it can do. And what it looks for generally in life is comfort. So it looks to be safe. It looks to keep your needs met, like food, sleep, and just generally comfort levels. So anything within that sphere of comfort for the brain, and it's happy. Go on, you can go in, go on. She has to go in there. So when you first start training, think of it like this. Your brain is uncomfortable because it's never experienced that training before. So it sets to work making lots of changes, like making your muscles stronger, making the blood get to your muscles quicker, all of those things, until it gets comfortable. It's trying to bring that type of training to within its comfort zone, so that when you're comfortable, it doesn't have to think, it doesn't have to make those necessary changes. So once your body has changed and adapted to that training stimulus, and it's okay with what you're doing, and you're doing the same things week in, week out, the brain decides that's comfortable enough, no need to make more changes, and therefore suddenly you're in the comfort zone, or hit a plateau, or stale. And then of course, the more of the same training you throw at the body, it won't help. You just get more tired. And that's why it's important to train smarter, not harder, to keep the body and the brain guessing. And it can be done with just a few tweaks. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. My top tweaks to take your training through the plateau, smash through the glass ceiling, and go on to the next level. Because there's always a next level. So to come back to that brain analogy, the moment you offer any new stimulus training-wise, even if it's just a tweak, then the brain sets about trying to bring you back into its comfort zone by making changes to the body, to the muscles, to the heart, to the blood, all of those good things. That's how clever the brain is. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is keep the brain, keep the body guessing, so that it never really knows what's coming next. And I don't mean throw the kitchen sink at it, but I do mean introduce as many different stimuluses over time as you can, just so the brain is kept on its toes, I guess. You don't want to be in your comfort zone, but living just outside is where you want to be. You don't want to be so far that your body and brain just can't deal with it. It's an interesting concept. It's almost like a puzzle to unpick. That's how I see it. And I'm going to give you the tweaks that I've used over the years to smash through the various plateaus I've had. And believe me, I've had a lot. And an extra bonus trick is I just got up at 5:30 to run, and my body doesn't like it, which is precisely why I've done it.
Ah, that's better. Now that we know how to play the brain at its own game, now we know what we need to do with the brain, we have to know what to do with the body. And by that I mean I'm going to give you 5 of my best tips for taking your training in a different direction. Not to a new level, but eventually it will go to a new level, but a different direction. Some suggestions for you so that you can change your training, get out of your comfort zone that little bit, and smash through the glass ceiling. Eventually. You've got to give it time, you've got to be patient. And how about this for starters? Polarized training, sometimes called 80-20 training, and really what it means is when I see new runners or new triathletes start their training, they train hard and easy, but the problem is not easy enough and not hard enough. So they're in this grey zone in the middle that has very little physiological benefit. 80-20 training is a theory where 20% of your training is spent at very high intensity, working super hard, and 80% of your training is spent super easy, building your aerobic base, and there's very little in the middle. Now, as I say, newer runners tend to stay in those middle zones. So if you want a way of just tweaking your training at the very early stages, then look into polarized training or 80-20, and then you will find some information. I will link a video here so you can watch a little bit more on polarized training, but it is one of the best ways to train sensibly and keep you training long term, because often we train too hard, too much, especially in the early years. I am definitely proof of that also. And we get little benefit. We do reach plateaus quickly, and worse than that, we can get injured from too much high intensity training. So really it should just be 20% of your overall training load is at high intensity. So first you've got polarization, now you've got periodization. And what periodization really is, and again, I'm sure I've made a video about it, so I'll link it here, probably have. It's really that you separate your training into chunks. You break it down, and each chunk has perhaps a different focus. And what I mean by that, let's take a season. A season is called a macro cycle. It's the big thing at the top. That's the thing with your goal race at the end. Then you have mesocycles, which is the middle bit, where are broken down. I break them down into chunks of 4 weeks. 3 weeks of training, 1 week recovery. 3 weeks of training, 1 week recovery. That's a mesocycle. And then underneath you have the microcycles, which are each individual training session. Now, if you start to periodize your training, it means that in each mesocycle, in each block of 4 weeks, you could have a different focus. It's exactly what I have done this season completely. So you've polarized, you've periodized. Those are two quite big changes to your training. They can reap big rewards, but they're quite big changes. So let's start thinking about ways we can tweak our training just that little bit that could reap huge rewards in itself. And the first one is to start look at your running form, your running efficiency. It's well known at the top end that some of the best runners in the world have an amazing running economy. And that just means that your technique is so good that so little energy is wasted doing anything other than propelling you forwards. So sometimes you might see people that run with their arms going across, which of course wastes energy because the body's having to right the rotation to make it forward momentum instead of rotational force. Little things like that can be of huge help. So a suggestion here would be, in your warm-up, factor in some drills that will help your running economy, that will help your technique, and therefore when you go into the run, it will be less effort to move yourself forwards than it would have been before, because your technique will be better. And believe it or not, just that little tweak of looking at your technique points can help you smash through a plateau. I am absolutely testament to that. I used to run with my hand turning facing back, so like that, and what I found it was causing was a hip injury on the right side. By having a running analysis and just a small tweak and making my palms face inwards, my running technique, my running economy improved, less pressure on the hip, faster forwards. A small change, but with huge benefits. So we're talking about things like drills will help your running technique. Strength and conditioning will be huge for your running technique. I mean, there are loads of videos that I've made on this channel that can help you analyze your own technique, absolutely, but you can get running analysis done. But I would start by just looking at your own technique, maybe even getting someone to video you or videoing yourself and looking it back. What could you improve on? And the same with strength and conditioning. It is just working those muscles in a way that allows them to work harder, more efficiently whilst you're out there running. These are small tweaks, big benefits. All right, number 4, and I'm gonna need you to be honest with me here. Put your hands up if you believe you get enough sleep. or enough recovery in general with your training. Now, this is something that has been a very common problem with me, but also a lot of the people that I coach and a lot of friends that I have in triathlon and running, is that we all believe that we have to flog ourselves to near the precipice, where in fact you might see a lot more benefit from taking your recovery really seriously. I mean, look at it this way. Not many people look at it like this, by the way, but look at it this way. And you should look at it this way, by the way. I've said, by the way, it's like plateau. Anyway, look at it this way. Your recovery is actually the part of the process of training where your muscles grow back stronger, repair stronger, your body gets stronger. The training is the breaking down of the muscles, is the stresses on the body. So it's not the training that actually makes the improvements, it's the recovery that triggers the improvements. So if you don't take it seriously, then you're not taking your training as a whole seriously. And let's just talk about a few things that you can do to take your recovery seriously. Make sure you get enough sleep every night. I know that sometimes it's just not possible. I totally get that, but aim for your personal sleep need. There's no golden number. Everyone seems to think that 8 hours is the golden standard, but some people have a sleep need of 7 hours. Some people have a sleep need of 10 hours. You'll only know when you don't set an alarm and you go to bed and you wake up naturally and you don't feel tired. That's when you know you've got enough. But prioritize sleep because it's when you get stronger. And with that, of course, factor in recovery, weeks and days within your training. Don't just beast yourself all of the time. There has to be natural peaks and troughs in training to allow you to get higher and higher. If you just keep going like that, there will be an inevitable plateau or crash. Plateau, that's a fun word to say. But also within the bracket of recovery, I would say really importantly is your hydration and your nutrition. Make sure you're hydrated all of the time and make sure you eat right. A good standard way to at least start your nutrition journey is making sure that you cook everything from scratch rather than anything in the microwave or bunging a oven meal in. Anything from scratch, you know what goes in it. That makes half the difference there. And finally, tip number 5. This is one, I'm just gonna put a caveat before it. This is one that I appreciate is not open and available to every single person, and I totally get that. But it is one that if it is an option, it's something that you should maybe look into, and that is hire a coach. I'll tell you why. We a lot of the time are our own worst enemy. We just want to push harder and harder and harder. And actually, me as a coach, or lots of coaches out there, their number one thing, their number one job is to help athletes dial it back, is to stop them from flogging themselves, to train smart, not hard, as we said at the start of the video. That's the key here. So a coach has the knowledge that you may not have. They may just have a different perspective. And if you get a good coach, they're going to have your best interests at heart. So hopefully you will build a relationship of trust where you understand and trust the process, and then you don't have to train as hard as perhaps you are, and that's why you're at a plateau. But one thing I would say is that whenever you're dealing with coaches, make sure that you check their credentials, that they are a qualified coach with the necessary insurance, because being a runner and a good runner doesn't necessarily make you a good running coach. Likewise, being a triathlete doesn't necessarily make you a good triathlon coach, and vice versa. I mean, I'm a triathlon coach and a running coach, and there are a lot of runners better than me. But what I'm saying is, make sure that it's safe for both of you, essentially. And that's it. My 5 top tips, some bigger ones, some smaller ones, but 5 ways that you can smash through a plateau, through a glass ceiling, through staleness, through a rut, whatever you want to call it. These tips might take you through that plateau and to the next level. We've got lots more triathlon content, lots more running content coming. We've even got merch coming. The t-shirts are pretty much on their way. We're really excited about that. And as always, all of our daily stuff is on Strava, Instagram. We're twice weekly on YouTube. Just trying to empty the brain of knowledge and give it to you. That's what I want from this journey. So if you have any other questions about this video or any others, just give me a shout. And before I go, I'm going to link you to whatever YouTube wants to link you to. I'm going to leave it to YouTube to make the decision. That's the subscribe button. See you Sunday. Have a good week.